the amount of time that it takes creatives to get something started and watch it take shape and watch it take form, there's so much time that's spent there. So when you can start with something already and then refine and make sure that you're bringing in tonality, that you're bringing in phrases that you use regularly, that you're bringing in certain vernacular or verbiage that resonates with your avatar, we can have content. There's content and we need to have that.
Welcome. And what a show we have for you today. This is going to be literally mind blowing because we are going straight to artificial intelligence, AI. We're going to be talking about how do you use it? How do you leverage it? If you're still trying to dabble your toe in the water, you are going to want to fully put that bathing suit on and dive head first. Do not look back, just go forward. And so we're going to be giving you the ins and outs. How do we at the ReLaunch Co. use it? How are we putting it into our signature course, the Fired Up Entrepreneur, so that people who have businesses don't have to navigate through the waters that can be so murky when new tech comes out? And we are going to demystify the fears. We're going to be able to say, hey, this is not something that you can sit on the sidelines anymore. This is something that it's about taking action now. You talk about languages, you talk about full immersion. That is what we're going to do today. So who did I bring on with me today? My fantastic marketing, social content staff. We are talking about the women that make the ReLaunch heartbeat go. And I'm telling you, you're going to hear how they're leveraging AI, how they're using it, what doesn't seem to be working, what does, where we are in this early stage of AI. And I can't even, I heard a podcast this morning that literally said, it's going to change the face of everything within the next 2 years. No, it will not, because it's already going to change, most likely in the next week. And why do I say that? Because ChatGPT, which is the hottest thing out there, it is known as the fastest growing consumer app ever, came out in November of 2022. By December, it was at 1 million users. By January, it was at 100 million. We can only imagine where we are right now. They've already gone from where they first came out with Chat 3.5. Now it's 4.0. It is moving. And what you don't want to have happen is by sitting back waiting, the whole idea of laggards, right? Oh, let's just sit back, let everyone else kind of get their feelers out there, figure it all out for me. You will be left in the dust, literally left in the dust. So I'd like to welcome Amber Morgan and Lindsay Zellner. And Amber is my VP of marketing. Lindsay is my director of all things content, all things writing, all things social. And we're going to jump right in. So first off, I want to ask Amber, as you know, your position at the ReLaunch Co., you're trying to figure all of this out. Everyone is trying to learn as we're doing our daily work. But how are you finding it? Can you share with us? Do you remember the first experience you had when you went on ChatGPT?
I think I do. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. This is a pleasure. We've been excited about doing this episode. And as I reflect back on probably my first experience, I remember kind of sitting and still understanding that I was trapped in the blank page. I wasn't sure what to ask first. How much did it know? How basic did it need to be? How advanced was it really? And so I felt like I had kind of stepped to the edge of a cliff where there are countless and limitless possibilities, and I wasn't sure what direction to go down first. So I think we're finding that a lot in the market too. It's these two different groups of people, some that are jumping off the cliff with excitement and are just embracing every single opportunity that they have now with ChatGPT. And then there are some entrepreneurs that don't really know if this is for them. Is it going to blow over? Is it going to actually impact their business? So I think this is going to be an incredible episode.
What do you think the first question you asked it was?
I don't know if I remember the first question. It was probably, here is my avatar. Here's the entrepreneurs that we serve. What would be a good offer for them?
So we're gonna get into all of that. I remember I opened it up and I wrote, "Hi." Hi. What am I supposed to do here? And I remember I first went on in December. And I remember immediately thinking, oh my gosh, I was tasked to do a lead magnet. I was tasked to kind of come up with an idea. And I tasked myself that on our Monday morning calls. And all of a sudden I'm like, okay, if this thing can take the LSAT, if this thing can pass, bar exams, if this thing can do all these amazing things, it should be able to help me. And it was going to be a lead magnet around all of the universal laws and how they are relevant to entrepreneurs and how they are relevant to our philosophy of 3HQ, head, heart, higher self. And I am telling you, blown away. So after my initial high, I got to work and man, oh man, it's so good. Lindsay, it's so great to have you here because this is a very interesting position for you to be in now, right? This came out of what we literally thought was virtual, like virtual air. It came out of this, we never even imagined, right? And all of a sudden, you're being tasked to use it, start to leverage it, and really think about how at our company, we're going to be able to really understand what's not there so that we can really make sure we're putting those type of things that you can't ask Chat GPT. And so what happened to you when you first went on and you started to really recognize the tool of what this could be for you?
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for having me. It's really exciting to be here with the whole team. And I can't really remember the first time that I logged on. I'm sure it was shortly after you, but Hilary, you have a tech background. You are the poster child for being an early adopter. And I think the split second you learned about ChatGPT, you said, team, log on this tool, use it today. I think the very first thing that I plugged in there was we were creating a new launch, a 5-day challenge, the Scale Your Sales Challenge. And very similar to Amber, we put in details around our avatar and we said, this is what we want to teach. Here's the bullet points of what we want to teach. Can you help me create a compelling description that would catch the eyes of our avatar? And that's what I used it for. And I remember having this resistance, this hesitation as a content creator that many, actually probably every content creator right now is feeling. They're feeling threatened if their position is still going to be relevant even today, but more so next year. And my perspective completely changed once I learned how to really use it as the tool that it's intended to be. And you're always going to need copywriters and creative professionals in your corner because the content that ChatGPT and all these other AI platforms spews out is only as good as the input that you put in. And that stems from the human and the human connection. So the pairing of technology with a human is really what's going to set businesses apart moving forward.
You know what? It's so great that you did address that feeling of being relevant. And, there's been so many types of jobs that have literally been taken out over the years as tech comes in. I was on a plane the other day and this little girl took the magazine, the Hemisphere magazine, out of the front of her seat and started to, look at it and immediately tried to start swiping the pages. and became very like noticeably upset. Like, why isn't this moving? Why can't I expand this? Why can't I? And I thought, you talk about advertising, right? You talk about how that has moved into a totally new world. You look at social, you look at the internet, right? We were having some fun this morning by just going and we watched the Today Show small little clip that was back in, I think it said 94, where Katie Couric was talking about the internet and just some of the things of like the nuances around like, what is that? Like, why? And she's saying, I don't want to go there. I don't want to do it. I don't need it. And it's funny because there are so many people right now still saying, you know what? No, this thing. And we hear there's the fears around it, but there's also with progress, right? You have to understand what is the fear that we are really going after. And when we talk about 3HQ, we talk about the head, the heart, the higher self. In the head section, there are, the way we describe it, there are steps, procedures, programs. This falls in line with that, right? And then you've got your thoughts that are associated either positively or negatively. And we have to get a grip over like, why am I feeling this way? Why is this starting to feel uncomfortable? And the best way to get past fear is to go straight at it, right? So, hey, if you guys need to say a little hi and just start to use it. But there is also something really interesting that, Lindsay, you just said, which what do you think in our company are the main benefits that we can use Chat GPT for? What are we doing already that we have seen significant improvement, and what type of improvements? How is it really helping us?
Mm-hmm. Well, there's many different benefits that we can go into that you can use Chat GPT for in sense of a business. But in terms of content creation, we just went through a massive launch, like I mentioned earlier. And we used it for not only the premise of the launch, using the details of our target audience, what our goals were, even what our financial goals were for the launch. And we used it to create the description. We used it to refine our email sequence. Now, as I said earlier, the output of ChatGPT is only good as the input. So the way that I used it personally was I wrote my emails, and then I plugged them into ChatGPT, not only to check for grammar, but I asked it, can you make this sound more enticing to our avatar to prompt them to sign up for this challenge like it's a no-brainer? And I did that with every single email. There were things that it suggested that I said or rephrased just slightly different. That
because another thing, Lindsay, I know you also put in there persuasive. Yep. We even, there's NLP, neuro linguistic programming. You can also say things like, hey, 7 habits of the highly successful people. What is it? The 7 habits of highly successful people, right? Isn't that the name of the book? I'm like spacing on it right now. And you could put that in there and say, make sure those elements are covered as well. I mean, and who, when you start to think about who we often in our courses start to talk about, certain people that we really admire and business concepts that have, come from, all the years, and people who've written these incredible books and put those in as well. It's, and as you said, it's really what the input gives you the output. And as you always hear me saying, it's about, when you start to ask the better questions, you're going to get better answers. And that is so incredible with what you're doing, what I do every day with it now. I spend hours upon hours. Like, I love this thing. I can't get enough of it. In fact, it's taken over from my social media, like scrolling. I go right in there and I just start to go down, all these amazing little pathways. But could you explain a little bit more about that input? Because I know people are trying to figure out, like, how do you You've mentioned putting things in there and, putting your emails, but how do you use it to start to get off the paper? In fact, actually, Amber, let's go over to you. How do you use it? How do you start with these questions? What are you putting into it?
I think when it comes to prompting, it remembers, ChatGPT remembers, and these tools remember what you feed into it. So you want to start to build up a knowledge base for it to work from first. So I've found that, of course, the more powerful and direct your prompts are, the more powerful and direct your language will be after. So when I'm starting, I really want to encourage you to start digging and asking it deeper questions about what you already know to be true about your avatar. Get ChatGPT to deliver what a person who fits your avatar description, what their pains are, what their desires are. I've asked ChatGPT to write before and after stories after they've worked with us for 1 year, 5 years, 10 years down the road, so that in what we're putting out in our marketing, we're doing a really good job of the vision casting, of the transformation of the results that we bring before I ever actually start to ask it about specific emails or specific pieces of content. I want to make sure that it has a really good understanding for what we do and how we do it differently. So I spend a lot of time feeding it information to get fluent in the language that our avatar uses, which of course creates compelling content.
You know what? You are saying that, and they call it the learning platform, right? The more you give it, the more it can give you back. And so when you're saying this and you're looking at it from that perspective of, is there a limit? Like, you go in there, how much time are you spending giving it information? And you did say that every time you go back in there, it's remembering what you had asked before because of your account, because of, all of that, right? You don't have to keep every time you go back in, putting in your LinkedIn bio, your main pages. It's building on it. So it does make sense to spend the upfront time giving it enough information so that. What other suggestion would you say for people that are, just starting to get on to the platform? What else would you do? I just said LinkedIn. What would be something else?
LinkedIn, social media bios, your About Me section or About Us section on the website. Those are pretty basic places that are easy to pull from, information from your speaker sheet if you have that, just in terms of a base. In terms of the avatar, I would ask it all of the languages about their pain points, their opportunities, things that hold them back. And in terms of, is there a limit or is there kind of a secret window? I would say it falls into everything else in marketing, where it's not a word or a minute more than you need and not a word or a minute less. So look at the output, the things that you feel like need refining, refine. And when you feel really comfortable with the output, then you're in a really good position to start creating. That's
amazing. We have to take a quick break right now, but when we come back, we're going to dive deeper, give you more tips, suggestions on how to run your business using AI. This episode is brought to you by my very own labor of love, my most recent book, ReLaunch. This book is a collection of my stories, other stories, and is a motivational guide to living a new 3HQ lifestyle, sparking your heart to ignite your life. It's available for purchase via Amazon. Get ready to try on the 3HQ method that I've been using for years throughout my entire life, reaching the next level in all areas, both professionally and personally. Get your copy today at www.therelaunchbook.com. Welcome back. This is so exciting because when you embrace change, imagine what your business, what your life, things will happen. It will. They've said that productivity has increased by anywhere from 20 to 50%. I would even call it higher than that. but I've got my team right now, my star marketing team on the podcast with us right now. So their radio show, all the different areas you're watching it in YouTube, because I want to make sure that you understand how you can leverage it, have some major, massive takeaways so that when you get off and when you stop hearing this, you can really go right on and start to look at it, whether you're going to be using the Chat GPT. And again, just so everyone knows, the valuation just came out, $29 billion valuation, and it's been out since November. And people say, well, what is the difference between that and all these other things that are going to be starting to pop up? Google has Bard, Meta has Llama, Microsoft has Bing. I mean, everyone's going to have their version. But it's all built on a platform. It's all built on a platform that is open AI that allows you to create. And then I don't know if you've even seen this at this point, but there are note takers that can come onto your call. There are so many different, there are video splicers and editors, and it will create your content for you. It can generate, as we know, and we're going to talk more about it, it can generate ads, it can generate speeches, it can generate your keynote speech, it can do a 15-minute, 30-minute, 60, whatever you want, it will create it. And the best part about it is, as Amber said, the more you feed it, the more you give it examples and you put that in there, it comes back with something that then you can work with. So maybe it comes back and it's, anywhere from 50 to 80%, like pretty darn good. And then you can add to it. You can modify, you can change. And so when we think about how we're using it, Lindsay, you talked about some of the things with the launch. In just reviewing the launch, we were talking about, can you just quickly go through every one of the levels that we used it for in this last one?
Mm-hmm. So we did start with the whole premise of the launch, which of course that includes the title, the promise of the launch, the description, the benefits, who it's for, what they'll walk away with, and who it's not for. And then once we had that, we built out the landing page so that people could register for the launch. And we also built out the email sequence and the ad copy for our Facebook ads. Then what we did was...
But wait, before you go into that, how much time would that, if you can just give me a rough estimate, how much time would that have taken before, let's say, November of 2022, before Chat GPT was out?
That's a loaded question, because we wrote the email sequence from start to finish, which I believe had 30 emails or so. Mm-hmm. And we also did some text as well.
So let's do this percentage wise of how much it saved you percentage wise of time.
I would say around 30%.
30%. I mean, think about that. 30% that then your team can be doing and enhancing and building other things that will help you with your profitability. It's so big. So you just mentioned ads. And everyone, I just want to let you know, we did not plan this ahead. In fact, just at the break, I said, hey, pull up an ad of ours. Let's put it in to Chat GPT and see what better version it's going to spit out. Or are you going to do, I'll give you two because I'm not sure which one you ended up picking. Or look at our avatar and do the same with that and have it build out more of a description around that. Which one would you rather do? We might even hit both, but right now, which one would you rather do?
Let's dive into the ads.
Okay, the ads. Okay, so what does the ad say that we used? And then let's put it in. So what does the ad right now say?
Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen. For those who are catching this on the podcast, we can go ahead and show them the visual. And we can also read what comes of this after we plug it in. Perfect. So what we've done is that we've pulled our best performing ad copy after monitoring our success with Facebook ads. So can you see my screen?
I can.
Wonderful.
Right now she is showing Chat GPT, and it's where you input and send a message to the bot.
Mm-hmm. And our Chat GPT account, it already knows an extensive amount around our avatar. So if I were using this for the sake of revamping and improving our highest performing ad copy, I would say something like this. I would say, hi, I'm going to share our highest performing Facebook advertising copy with you. How would you embellish and improve the following advertising copy to connect even more with our ideal client? And then you put a semicolon and you space down and you paste in your content. So right here, I've pasted in our highest performing ad copy. Now, when I click enter, it's taking a moment to think, but here it starts generating.
Actually, yeah, it because we're on Zoom, it actually happens. I mean, I can't believe the speed that it comes back with. It literally came back with it. I mean, we all heard it within 2 to 3 seconds. I was seeing it, and it is it's literally creating this. What you can also do is say, this is one of our highest converting, make another one similar to this and leverage this concept. Or
that's right.
And it will just create, the time it's saving. And so read this one, because this one
I sure will. I'm excited to read it myself. This says, discover the untapped potential of your entrepreneurial journey and reignite your original vision for success, one that is filled with abundant time, freedom, and the ability to make a real impact. We understand that along the way, the path to achieving your dreams can become obscured. The constant demands and endless tasks can leave you feeling overwhelmed, making it difficult to envision a future beyond your current challenges. That's why I'm thrilled to share with you the 5 subconscious secret weapons of the millionaire mentality. These powerful tools are specifically crafted for extraordinary women like you who have already built successful 6-figure businesses. Implementing this system has enabled me to establish multiple million-dollar companies while reclaiming precious time to concentrate on what truly matters to me, fulfilling my purpose. In just under a week, my team and I will unveil these 5 psychological power levers that will propel you ahead in your business journey. With unwavering confidence and sharpened skills, you will become irresistibly captivating, drawing your ideal, highly qualified clients who are eagerly prepared to invest in your offerings. Don't miss this exclusive opportunity to join the Scale Your Sales Challenge, a limited time event that promises to revolutionize your sales strategy and transform your business. Click the link now to secure your spot and embark on a transformative journey towards unprecedented growth. Now that's a bit lengthy.
I was thinking that's too long. So how would you then make it? How would you ask it to make it shorter?
So the ReLaunch code, we're always kind to our Chat GPT. So we would say, great, thank you. And then we would say, can you please shorten this? And you can either say a certain word count. Can you shorten this to 600 words or less? Or you can do it by paragraphs.
Or could you even say, can you rewrite this for Instagram? That would be shorter. A post. Could you you literally, everyone can be asking it to do all these things. Or you could say, I would like to have this summarized in 1 paragraph.
That's right.
It's so awesome. So let's do that. Can you please summarize this in a paragraph? And let's just see.
Now, when I've done this in the past, it often spits out 2 paragraphs, but we'll see what happens.
Okay. So there it is.
Okay.
All
perfect.
right.
1 paragraph.
Yeah. 1 paragraph. And we're not going to read it, everyone, but it's so great. And that was such a good way. But here's the thing. You're often asked about, what are and in our line of work, we always try to get to the 3HQ, get out of your head. But in the head, you've got limiting beliefs. You've got beliefs that are truly holding you back that you don't even sometimes realize. And so when we start to look at this, Amber, how do we use this to understand the bugs, the beliefs underground surfacing of our ideal client? How would you tie all of this together to be able to find out that information?
I would start by asking questions. If you've fed it the information or you've done all of those steps up to this point, and you have a good idea on the transformation, I find that a really easy way to tie that in is why might people feel hesitant to move forward and take the offer? So you want to start to identify first what they might be feeling. Now you have insights to pull that into your language and messaging. And then you can start to piece together, if they're telling me this, and this is how they feel, what else might they be thinking about? What other life circumstances are they likely to be experiencing at the same time? I'm trying to look at every single angle possible to really understand the intricate workings of a human at any given state and time that happens to be a business owner and also happens to be human when life happens. So I'm looking at every single angle, but I start from the transformation and then really try to bridge that by saying, what might make someone take pause and reflect on if this is the right direction or not. And then will give you a list of options, a list of things that they're feeling. And I would take every single one of those and do a deeper dive off of every single one to really try to piece together a big picture.
And it's important to do your market research as well, because going back to our most recent challenge, we did use ChatGPT to help us work through some of those objections that we were anticipating from people buying into our higher ticket program. And of course, they brought up the money objection. So how do you handle a money objection? You can offer a money back guarantee. Now, what we learned with the handful of women who opted not to buy into our higher ticket program, they were well aware of this money back guarantee, that they would 100% get their money back if they put the work in. They still didn't buy. So what we found out was the money wasn't the real objection. It was that they weren't confident enough in themselves to put the work in.
Oh, that is so great, because now you're getting to the real root of their limiting belief, what's really, truly holding them back, not what you assume on the surface is. And once you can start to, and again, this is something that we literally now are including in every single one. You know, we have one every week that we put out there, a training in this course. It's a 6-month program. And we help people understand, here's where you can take it even up another level. And I believe that this is going to allow so many people to have that, the content is going to be there. It's the questions you're asking to get at the right answer that is so important. And one of the things that the three of us were talking about this morning is that you want to make sure that it's in your voice. You want to make sure that it sounds like, if you're writing something that I'm saying, we want to make sure that it's not like, it doesn't sound like her at all, because people know that, right? And so, Amber, how do you, when you're putting together our course right now, how are you leveraging kind of what's not in ChatGPT, and then putting that as now it's become even more important in our courses?
Absolutely. I think ChatGPT or any of these AI tools are an absolutely incredible strategic lever to pull for efficiency, productivity. And I think one of the things that we've found so grateful for it is just the ability to get off of the white page. The amount of time that it takes creatives to get something started and watch it take shape and watch it take form. There's so much time that's spent there. So when you can start with something already and then refine and make sure that you're bringing in tonality, that you're bringing in phrases that you use regularly, that you're bringing in certain vernacular or verbiage that resonates with your avatar. We can have content, there's content and we need to have that. But the ability to connect with a human still comes down to tapping into your heart, tapping into your higher self. And in an online industry where the world does not trust, we fall back on things like the know, like, and trust factor. And if there's no emotional connection woven throughout the copy you'll have an abundance of copy. You'll get it in faster time. But if it lacks that connection piece by bringing in your heart, your voice, your higher self, it's still not going to land with the audience. So you absolutely have to pair this incredible strategic tool with your heart, with your brand voice, with your mission, your values, with your higher self, because that's the piece that's going to allow it to land so well and connect with your audience.
Mm-hmm. And there's what you're saying, wait, I just want to mention one thing. Higher self, for those that are new to the show, with the energy, your best version of you, that energetic, you got to make sure that you understand your energy. You have to make sure you understand your voice, right? If all of a sudden my team started to put content out there that was very serious and very corporate like and all that, it doesn't resonate. That's not my voice. We want a little bit of the element of the joie de vivre, the joy of life, right? Success is so amazing when you're feeling this level of, gratefulness. I call it the G zone in the higher self, your growth zone, your greatness zone. And so, Lindsay, what else would you add here as we dive deeper into this area of what's it missing?
Right. So there's a couple of risks involved as well with using ChatGPT. And I believe we're about to cut to a break in a moment here so we can dive into them after. But one of the risks that Amber was mentioning is that if you don't put your heart back into it, if you don't put your tone, your personality, and your own persuasive tactics back into it, you run the risk of everyone's content down the line reading the exact same. And then you're in the same position you're in now, where you're having trouble standing out in a crowded marketplace.
So when we come back, we're going to address just this and how you can avoid doing that, and also some tips and strategies to get you to the point where you are unique. Content is going to become, everyone's going to have this ability to get great content, but it's what you do with it that matters. So we're going to go into that when we get back. This episode is brought to you by my very own labor of love, my most recent book, ReLaunch. This book is a collection of my stories, other stories, and is a motivational guide to living a new 3HQ lifestyle, sparking your heart to ignite your life. It's available for purchase via Amazon. Get ready to try on the 3HQ method that I've been using for years throughout my entire life, reaching the next level in all areas, both professionally and personally. Get your copy today at www.therelaunchbook.com. Oh yeah, this is so great. How much do I love tech? And I love it when there is such a low entry to start using this. It's free. All you have to do is literally ask it a question and then go from there. And as Amber said, you can start to take what you've asked, break it into the components, get you can get that first pass of just the white paper filled up. I had a company called White Space Inc. with my fabulous co-founder, Debbie Monroe. Shout out to her. And it's just that. It's the hardest part that people have is the white space. It's that white space and getting started. And this is your way to get started. And so as we were ending the last segment, we were talking about this voice. We were talking about how important it is. Content is everywhere. We now have it at our fingertips. You can go, but it is interesting that if I ask a question and Amber, you ask a question, or Lindsay asks a question, it gives us different answers. It gives us, so everything is kind of unique to you. The plagiarism is not there. And so now that makes it even more interesting that more you give it, the more you're going to get back. But as we sit here and try to differentiate the content, right? Here are the 7 steps to doing this. What can you do, Lindsay, to make it feel like it's ours, to make it feel like this is the ReLaunch code. This is, this is Hilary. Yeah, she's talking to me.
Mm-hmm. It all comes down to the heart of your company, which is your brand. And of course, at the ReLaunch code, we speak about that third pillar being higher self, which is how you energetically deliver that content as well. And we just talked about that first risk of using ChatGPT being that content creators run the risk of having vaguely similar content if they use ChatGPT as it is without putting any of their creative input into it. Now, I believe that there's a second risk, that there will be a continued growing gap between consumers and online service providers. There's going to be 600 million digital entrepreneurs this year. And if you think about that from a consumer's perspective, what that means is they may not be able to tell the difference between someone who's actually credible and someone who used AI or ChatGPT to build something that they're selling online, and they're actually a very green entrepreneur. So what that means is it's even more important to connect with your audience in order to make sales, but it's going to be more difficult. So you have to revisit your brand and tie in your story, your authenticity, your credibility, and your expertise, or you run the risk of being completely glanced over and having a blind eye turned to you in today's market and the future market.
You said stories, and that's a big part of what we help people do is really pull out their stories and make them relevant to their product, right? It's great to have a great story, but it somehow has to tie in. There has to be that lesson, that message that you're trying to weave it all together. And that is a great way, as you're showing your background, as you're showing, how you got to be where you are right now, how, what is your version of success and how come, right? We all have the ups and downs. And I think that's where you can add that in. But of course, the program is not going to be able to know those about you, except that you can put in, like we've actually put in articles that we've written that have some of my specific stories. And it is incredible, everyone, when all of a sudden in something that I ask it to do, it throws in like, hey, and, the Diana Ross concert, or when you were at Silver Lake, it does these, and it's like, no way, because it will learn your stories, but you have to be able to craft your stories in such a way with those lessons. So that is so great. Now, I know that we're starting to really even more than just dabble in some of the AI apps that are now being added onto, just like ChatGPT. There's other types of apps. And Amber, I know that you really, when I started using one of them, which was, it joins all of our meetings, it records it, it gives me, this is what was the most important takeaway. You guys, it's crazy. So instead of looking at, all the notes or going back and watching a video, even double speed, it will pull out. And in 5 minutes or less, I can know exactly what was talked about in that hour call. It's incredible. But what are some other ones, Amber, that we're dabbling in, or, we're about to? Because I know a couple are not quite ready.
They're coming quickly, though. It's funny. Yes, your note taker has become almost like another member of our team at this point. So we welcome him in with open arms to each of our meetings. And there are multiple different apps available for note taking or assistant type tasks. I think those are becoming more popularized, more mainstream at this point. But I don't know that a lot of people are actually up to date and aware that there are also apps that have been developed and are in process. They're continuing to refine them. Apps like Pictory. Apps like this are video editors. They generate video. You can input a script and it will truly put together a video for you, highlight reels, so on and so forth.
That is so cool. That is a really cool. Yeah. Talk about a saver of time, because that one I think you mentioned you don't have to have any experience in
That's
editing.
right.
So for people like me who really don't want to be editing, it's instantaneous. It's amazing.
Videos made easy. So a great option for early stage entrepreneurs too, to maintain a lean model during times like this. A lot of opportunity for business owners, definitely at our fingertips. Jasper is another one. Now that one's a little bit more common, I think, at this point. That is primarily a long form writing tool that uses AI. There's Murph that actually changes text to your voice, and that can be frightening and equal parts exciting. And so again, they're continuing to refine these, but there's so many options.
Amber, as you just said that, it reminded me, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and one of the things that was stated is that a CEO, I think they use that app that you said was Murph, and it ended up that they cloned the guy's voice, the CEO's voice. It was not him. They cloned it and had him, the CEO's voice, call the CFO to transfer money. And it was so legit. The CFO was about to transfer money, and there was a word that the CEO would never use. And so it caused the alarm bells to go off, and he didn't do it. But what the recommendation that was given was families should have a word that if somebody calls and they use the word, then they know, okay, this is legit, versus that's something that, this AI voice would never know. Really super important for those that still have, parents and grandparents. My dad, when he was alive, got a call from my son. It was a fictitious call saying he needed $1,000 to get out of jail. He was put in there. I mean, all this. And my dad was like literally thinking that this was, and if we had had that word, it would have, thankfully, as soon, my dad said, hey, I got to get off right now. I need to talk to, my wife about this. And the guy was like, no, I need it right now. Yeah, just give me your credit card number. And he didn't do it, thankfully. But I mean, I think we are going to be at the very beginning of this, but there's so many great ways that you can also use it. They're talking about being able to use it when you're doing your Audible book. And I mean, I spent 18 hours with my ReLaunch Spark Your Heart to Ignite Your Life Audible book. It's coming out this summer, everyone. Drum roll, please. I'll let you know when it does. But can you imagine if I could have my voice read the book now, inflection points and things like that? It would listen to how I speak and be able to do it. It's incredible. Now, I know I talked about the fact that I do use, it's a product and I should have named it Fathom, but there's also Fireflies. And I'm kind of dabbling between, which one will end up working for me. So I don't want to put my stamp of approval on it quite yet. But right now, everyone does know when Fathom comes on in. Yep, it's there. And sometimes it overpowers our whole screen. I'm like, oh gosh. So just know that, really. And another thing that you can't do, which I thought was really interesting, we talked about this morning as well. I went in and put into chat, hey, what are the best apps to use, AI apps to use for entrepreneurs looking to scale their business? And it came back, unfortunately, this is 2 years. The data that is in there is 2 years prior. What was that? What was the actual, was it 2 years ago? That's where it started.
2 years.
So, it's interesting. You got to kind of play around with it. And then I ended up going back to Google and I thought, okay, how quickly is Google going to end up with their Bard being able to have that little, bot there so that when you're asking, it's all coming. Just be open to it. Be ready for it. So as we're, winding down, is there something, Lindsay, that you're like, hey, I really want everyone to walk away with this? Is there something that you really want to leave in everyone's mind coming from a content, copy, wonderful writer? What would you say?
Sure. Well, as we're going through some of these apps that we can now leverage, I would say take note of the most common everyday apps that content creators use, whether it's Word docs, whether it's Canva. They all have these AI beta systems built in that you can now use. And I think that's saying something, that the lesson is that the world is going in this new direction, and don't buy into the fear. Don't run from it. Embrace it, use it, and weave it in with your skill set and use it to your advantage. It's a tool to help you. It's never going to replace you.
That's so, and honestly, when you're thinking about this, the more you use it, the more you get comfortable with it, it actually increases your value in the market.
It's true.
And so, Amber, what would you say as we're, kind of winding on, any last minute, hey, I need to add this one?
I would just reiterate again, technology is continuing to evolve, and it evolves very quickly, particularly in an industry that already moves at lightning pace. And just to re-encourage the listeners out there that, again, it's not going to replace you. You still have a role, you still have a place in the business, but human connection, the heart, your voice, your story into this incredibly skilled tool that we can just use at our disposal. That's what's really going to maintain your relevancy in the market, your ability to connect with an audience, and give you the upper edge.
And so here's the thing. There's always going to be another technology. This is the beginning of, imagine when I remember Netscape, when it first came out, the internet, and, being able to have a search engine, and people were like, oh my God. And then all the different things that came from it. It's like podcasting, right? When it started, there was a few, and now I just read like 3.5 million different podcasters, but there's something called pod phase. It's like pod fade, which is after 8 episodes, people like, it's done. With this, it's only going to get more and more. I mean, there's going to be new opportunities for such massive growth. And as you're thinking about it, I use it from a strategic perspective. It keeps me wanting to ask better questions. That is so powerful. So use it. Let us know about it. Please, if you enjoyed this show, make sure you're subscribing so that you get these. You'll know when we're coming out with another. We are about to do something so cool with business. You don't want to miss it. And AI. This is going to be hands down probably the best launch we'll ever have. Anyway, right now, go check it out. Let us know. Leave a comment. Go and explore. The more you can open your mind, the more you can relaunch today into AI, the more benefits that you're going to see right away. Take care, everyone. We'll be back next week. If you like this video and want to get more like it, head over here.